And we're on. Welcome, everybody.
Steve, I'm really just here if I can add anything along the way, or anyone has any questions specific to something I might know about because of my particular area of expertise with a commercial dojo. But you are by far the guy that we're all here to listen to. You're the big dog, so to speak, as far as judo knowledge and dissemination. I've never met anybody more knowledgeable about judo and more willing to share that knowledge than you. And I've always been very appreciative of that. I know Scott has as well. So I'm going to mute, but I'm here I can jump in and add, or I'm happy just to sit and listen. Either way.
Thank you, James. The check's in the mail. Thank you. Well, hi, guys. So what do you want to talk about? And that's what we're going to talk about.
We want to talk about the AAU and AAU Judo, and why they should get their memberships, and why people should start a club, and why we should do more of these scrimmages, and are we going to have a good tournament?
Well, okay. A lot to discuss, so let's get at it. First of all, AAU Judo, Amateur Athletic Union, is a grassroots organization. It's for us. I've long believed, my entire career actually in coaching, that judo is for everyone, and AAU is the epitome of what that means. It's a grassroots organization. It's the largest amateur sports organization in the United States, probably the largest sports organization. Has I think 750,000 members in a variety of sports, 40 different sports. So the whole purpose of it is grassroots development. And when Scott mentioned about scrimmages, one of the things that I've been advising people to do at least the last 10 years is to have in your dojo, in your community, local scrimmages. They don't have to be big formal tournaments. They just have to get kids on the mat, let them have fun, and do some judo. That's the point of it. And that's the point of what AAU Judo is about. AAU used to be the governing body before the Presidential Sports Act of 1978. And basically what happened then by Congress, it was a bill in Congress, that the U.S. Olympic Committee was formalized. And each sport, hooked up with the Olympic Committee. Judo became U.S. Judo Incorporated. Now it's called USA Judo. It's still the same organization. That is the governing body of judo. And what happened with the AAU, it was kind of in limbo for a few years. And then a number of us who, I was a longtime AAU member. I started judo in 1965 and joined the AAU in 1966. So I've been competing in all their competitions and so on. And it was AAU that really got judo organized on a national level in the United States back in who knows when, the 40s or 50s. I think the first national AAU championship was in 1953, year after I was born. So it's been a long time. So that's a little bit of the evolution of what's happened in AAU Judo. And it became, starting in the 80s, the 1980s through the 1990s, grew into a very strong grassroots organization. And in 1994, I approached the AAU because I'd been involved in AAU Judo and AAU Wrestling, AAU Powerlifting. And I approached the AAU. I went to the national convention and said, there's room, for everybody in judo, I think. Would you recognize judo again as one of your sports that you could extend insurance to members and that type of thing? And it passed. They took judo in as a member sport. So with that gave us, and now AAU Judo, good insurance benefits. We could have our own small tournaments or national tournaments if we want. And we do have a national tournament now, and other events. So it's given us a wide range of things we can do. And the best thing what AAU Judo does for me as a coach, and anybody as a member, is they have the best insurance in any sports organization in the world. And I'm not exaggerating. It is the best coverage. It is the rates for the members. It's just the best deal. And like when I want to sanction a tournament or license a tournament, they call it an AAU. I don't even know if there's a charge anymore. I can't even remember. Scott or James, do they even charge a license fee anymore? I don't even think they do.
free sanctions. It's free sanctions right now. So
Okay. All right.
membership-
Even better.
Okay, for sanctions.
I think you just have to have, I think you have to have a club membership.
Yes,
You
correct.
can't have an individual membership. If you
Right.
have a club membership, then you can host an event that doesn't cost you
Right.
anything.
And
you
that's
have to buy, like, so I have a school, but I have to have my individual membership and then
And
I'll
club.
have my club membership.
Right.
Now, the good thing is they're very inexpensive. So that helps a
correct.
lot.
Correct. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So that's where it's great for us because, well, this weekend we're going to have a little scrimmage here at Welcome Mat. We have 3 locations of our dojo, and one of the north part of our town, Kansas City. We're going to have a little scrimmage. We'll have 30 kids maybe show up. I don't know how many, but they'll all have fun. And what it is, it doesn't have to be a formal tournament. It can be how we run it. Is the kids come in, we make sure they're paired up correctly by age and weight. We don't want a huge kid fighting a smaller kid or a 12-year-old fighting a 5-year-old. That just doesn't happen. So when everything's safe, make sure it's all safe. But the kids sign up for as many matches as they want. And what we do is so let's say little Johnny Judo has 7 matches, and each time he has a match. If he wins, he gets a particular ticket to put in a bucket to draw for a prize. And also if he doesn't, we still give him a ticket. He can try to get one. But and we have little prizes for him to do. It's not necessarily medals or trophies or anything. It's just things they like. Maybe a club patch or something. And so it makes it fun for them to do. And what it does, it gets them to want to have a lot of matches and a lot of experience. And we find with most of the kids that come to these tournaments, they get more matches in these scrimmages than they do in regular tournaments often. We had, I think the most matches one of our kids had was 14 in one day. And that was about a 4-hour time limit. This little girl would fight anybody, and she happened to be the right size to fight anybody. And I think she had 14 matches in one day, and she won most of them. So she obviously got a nice little prize at the end of the day. We'll get T-shirts, stuff like that away that we get through AAU or we have left over from the club or whatever. And then sometimes we'll have a more formal tournament, and it'll be more structured tournament with double elimination or something like that. So it doesn't have to be just a scrimmage. We could have more formalized competition with referees and so on like that. And nice thing about the scrimmages too is we have a lot of the dads and the moms and also the older students who, maybe a 16-year-old who's competed several years, but he's learning how to referee. So we often have those people referee the matches. Now, under the supervision of someone more experienced, but so if they make a mistake, we'll get on there and we'll correct the mistake. But in any event, they are learning to be a referee. So we've got the kids learning to judo to compete. We've got older kids and adults learning to be referees, and it's just a good learning experience. So what that does is, the kids who do this, let's say little Johnny Judo again, he's not afraid of going to a great big scary tournament where there are 4 mats. He's already started. He's had a lot of matches in the club, and we have other clubs, we have other local AAU clubs join in too. So he gets to meet other kids and he gets to compete. So it's not a big scary, hairy thing to him. And when he does want to compete and move up, he can. It's not a big deal to him really. It's just a matter of training harder. So that's what judo is about. It's grassroots. It's development. We also have a lot of clinics, small club clinics. I just had one of my black belts who lives in Jefferson City, has a strong program down there. He came up and did a Nagi no Kata clinic for my students, and had a good turnout for them. So those are the type of things that we offer, and that's what AAU Judo does. It's a matter of learning and getting more access to people, getting them on the mat, and so that's the basic thing. Again, the insurance for I think $20 a year is basic, and an added benefit card is $22 a year for a person under 18. I think over 18 is now $35 and $37.50 or something like that for an adult to participate. Coaches membership is what do you call it? I think $55 a year, you guys. I think that's what it is, and then what they do is a background check on us. It's a non-competitors membership. But price that, and price the insurance benefits are fabulous. Price all that with the governing body or the other major judo organizations, and we got them beat. We just do. So the infrastructure is there. Now, what we don't have are ranks in AAU judo. We did that on purpose because, anybody who's been in judo, and guys, all you guys, I see Dave Perner's up there. How you doing, Dave? So if you've been in judo a while, that's a sticky point for a lot of things. The AAU we made it very clear. We want to provide an infrastructure for the sport of judo, for a safe, for insurance, licensing of tournaments, events, sanctions, that type of thing. But the rank thing, you can join any organization you wish. We don't care about your rank. But we do have an organization that John Saylor and I started some years ago that both, James is in, I know Scott's certainly in, and we do have rank structure for that. That's extra. That's on top if you want to do that. And the AAU provides the type of benefits that I think would be any coach would want to have if he had some common sense. Frankly, it's a rather probably a controversial statement, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I think when a coach cares more about the welfare of his students than he does his rank, he'll join AAU Judo. Now, what we do in Kansas City is that, anybody who comes to the welcome mat in our club, they join the AAU. That's our base insurance. That's our base club thing. So they get the benefits of that. If they want to compete in USA Judo, then they can buy a USA Judo card. We don't stop them from doing it. They can do that. If they want to join USA Judo to get rank in USA Judo, that's okay too. But we don't say you can't do that. What we do is that is added. So some of the kids that we have that really want to compete regionally, nationally, and so on, then they will join USA Judo because it's the governing body, and they have to. It's a requirement if you're going to compete at the national level in that. So that's what So we have an option, so people can do that. But the AAU is the base, and if you're an AAU coach and that's your base, you're doing really well for your kids and your adults in your program because you're providing them an infrastructure that no other organization in the martial arts does. The AAU has absolutely the best, and that's my selling point for the AAU. You guys, I know I'm preaching the choir with James and Scott, but that's absolutely what the case is. And if you're in an AAU program, you know that your coach is looking out for you. It's a small but growing number. I think Norm Miller's our national chair. I think we're fighting it. I don't know if you guys have got the number from Norm. Maybe contact him, but we haven't reached 1,000 membership yet this year, but we're pushing it. But we consider that in the United States, probably, I think the governing body, USA Judo, maybe has 8,000 members tops at the tops. I think USJA has just announced they have about 6,000 members. The US Judo Federation has about 2,000 or 3,000, maybe 4,000 members. A lot of these cross, membership in one group or the other. So we have a very small base of people doing judo in the United States anyway. So if we can get 1,000 members in AAU, we're doing pretty good. We have clubs all over the country. And what it is, just like Scott, what you're doing, James, what you're doing, what I'm doing here in Kansas City, we're offering good judo to people, and we prove every day you really don't have to join an expensive organization to provide a good product, which is the product is judo, good quality judo to your students. And I think we prove that every day that we offer judo to our students. So that's kind of what it is about. If I miss anything, James or Scott, feel free to chime in. But I think that that's where it is as far as an explanation of what AAU is about. Anyway, can you guys offer anything? Add anything to that?
James, do you have anything to add?
I can always talk, Scott. You know that. I'm never at a loss for words. But would you like to go first? You're kind of hosting this. Is there anything you want to?
These guys have to tolerate me talking at them all the time. This is a breath of fresh air for them.
Right.
So James, just kind of expound a little bit on what Scott said, some of your thoughts on the AAU.
Yes. So I think one of the main things is if you're going to be involved in judo, if you're helping to coach or helping to teach, or if you have aspirations of doing that, maybe you think, maybe in the back of your mind, hey, one day maybe I want to run a program, or I want to start a program or help run a program. If you're involved in judo more than just being a competitor, then you kind of need to be thinking about the education that you need to acquire. And I think one of the problems, and again, everybody in judo will sit around for an hour and tell you what all the problems in judo are. But in my opinion, one issue from my perspective is that a lot of people, a lot of coaches, a lot of instructors, they only ever think about the competition aspect of
Well
judo.
said. Yeah, let's talk about that. Great.
And I preached that. I've been in judo for 30 years. I've been running my own school for about 23, 24 years. I did it as a full-time occupation for about a decade. That's how I put food on the table, paid my light bill, paid my mortgage, was teaching judo full-time. And about 2.5 years ago, I kind of stepped back from that. And so I'm not running my school the day to day anymore. I teach a couple of classes a month by video. I go back about every 6 weeks, teach them in-person classes. I'm there for promotions, things like that. That may change. I may end up back in the school full time. I may end up back in it part time. I'd say now I'm quarter time there. But the thing is that over the years, I would say that a lot. And I took a lot of flack from a lot of other people because I always got accused of being anti-competition, which was funny to me because I fought in my first judo tournament with only about 1.5 months, 2 months of training, and then continued to fight in tournaments all the way up through. I was a 5th degree black belt and still getting out there. One of the last times I competed was at one of the nationals that you guys hosted, Steve. And I remember you weighed me in when I got there late that night, and you pulled me off the side and you're like, James, you really don't have to be doing this anymore.
I remember that conversation.
You don't have to still be competing. You don't have to still get out there. And I'm like, I know, but I feel like I still can, and so I will, and I will until I can't, and then I won't. So I was never anti-competition. I've always felt that competition was an important aspect of judo. However, when my school got fairly successful, and we started having 140, 150, 160, 170, at one point we were over 200, students at our school at one point 4 or 5 years ago. And so when that happened, I was being contacted by a lot of people around the country. Hey, will you come out and do a little seminar? Will you talk to us? Tell us, how are you getting all these people? We can't ever grow our program. We get up to 15 or 20, 25 people, and then they all go away, and then we rebuild, and then they all go away, and we rebuild, and they all go away. And that was kids and adults. And, inevitably what I would find when I would talk to them and kind of do some discovery and ask some questions is, everything they did was built around competition. Everything they did was built around preparing kids and adults to go and compete and then taking them to competitions. And a lot of their success was based on how they did at competition.
Right.
And you had a lot of people in clubs, in programs who didn't want to compete, or maybe they just couldn't compete. Maybe they physically were not capable, maybe because of age, previous injury, medical condition, whatever the case may be. And so when you run a program that's based entirely on competition, then right off the bat, you're pretty much shutting those people out. They're never going to be able to be really part of the team, right? They're always going to be kind of minimized. And so from the beginning with our school, that was one of the things we tried to avoid. We tried to teach people to be instructors, not just competitors. Mm-hmm. And we did kata, and, we trained people to be technical officials, and we trained people to be referees. And so what I ended up with, I had a great group I had like 9, 10, 11 black belts in my program, and 90% of them were guys over the age of 50. Because they could still be active. There were things they could do, even if they didn't want to get out there and bang heads every Saturday in a competition. They could coach, they could referee, they could do tech official work, they could help teach kids classes. There were all these things they could do. Yep. And so it's kind of at the risk of sounding corny and cheesy, it's kind of like a more holistic approach to judo. And I was heavily involved with the USJA for a very long time. I was on several of their committees, coach education committee and regional coordinator committee. And man, I was just killing myself, working myself to death, trying to help grow judo and spread judo. And it just gets very frustrating. What I found with a lot of the big organizations is it's always the same thing over and over. A new group of people will come into power. They will completely throw out everything the last group did, put in the way they want to do it, and then they'll do it for a few years. And then another group will come into power. They'll trash everything the previous group did, and then they'll put their own stuff in. But no matter what, it was always consistently the same thing, this focus on competition as being the only way, even like to get promoted. You know, even once you're at a black belt level, you had to earn promotion points, and you had to, really the only way to do that shorter than 10 or 20 years was to get out there and compete. If you didn't want to compete, it was going to take you 4 or 5 times as long, you know, to get your promotions. So what I like about AAU and Judo Black Belts Association with Sensei Steve is that the focus is, there's obviously competition there, right? But the focus is not entirely on that. And there's a lot more freedom to do the things that you find important. There's a lot more freedom to teach the kind of judo you want to teach. Hey, you want to focus on self-defense? That's great. Focus on self-defense. We recognize that. You spend 4 or 5 years and you're teaching classes 2 or 3 nights a week, focusing on judo as self-defense. When it's time for you to test for your next rank, we got no problem with that. We're not going to say, well, you know, you really didn't do enough tournaments. You know, you haven't really competed or done anything outside your school. We know you teach, and, you know, we know you hosted a couple of scrimmages, but, you know, how do we know you can really do judo? That's kind of stuff. So,
well, can I jump in a second? You said a very important point there, James, that I've actually coached now 50 years. And in the early years, I made a whole lot of mistakes, and I shouldn't look back at that. But I learned early on that when I said judo is for everyone, it really is. And I taught in community centers. That's what I did. I mean, for 37 years, my club was primarily strictly in a community center. And then later on, we expanded. But there was always room for kids and adults who just wanted to come in and do judo. Judo is first and foremost self-defense, physical education. Jigoro Kano, the founder of judo in 1882, he wrote extensively on this, that judo is physical education, it is character development, and thirdly, it is a methodology of self-defense and sport. I mean, you can do those. It's, you know, shobuho, that's what it means in Japanese. So the very essence of judo is physical education. And we're doing a poor job to our students if I'm a judo instructor and I say, I only have time for the kids I know that will place in the nationals. I've heard that so many times, it is ridiculous. You know, I've gone to somewhere and I've done a clinic or a seminar or a camp somewhere, and I talk to a young coach or sometimes not so young coach, and they want to impress me because I'm the big judo weenie with a red and white belt. And so they want to tell me how good they are. And I've heard more too often is, you know, I really don't have time with these kids if they can't, if I don't see they have a chance of placing in the nationals, I don't even bother with them. And I'll always tell them, you got the wrong idea about judo, bud. It is the wrong idea about judo, because I always made sure that I had, when I was running a community center, and I'm back in coaching again. Last couple of years, I got jumped back into it again, my own dojo again. But it's important that we include those kids and adults who don't want to compete. Judo is for everyone. So I always made sure that I had 2 classes a week, general classes where they learn good judo skills. We worked on all phases of judo, including kata. And they learned their technical skills of judo, and they learned good lessons in life. Now, I made sure that I had extra practices for the kids and adults who wanted to compete. If they wanted to compete, then I would say, okay, we have more practices during the week you can participate in. And by the way, I will coach you. I will set you up on a training program at home. I will help you all you want to do. And I did. So it is possible, if a coach wants to just do judo and teach it to the best of his ability. Like James said, if you're more interested in teaching judo for self-defense, or if you want to teach another, like more kata, do it. Right now, I have a small group of, I teach at a small Catholic high school. We offer judo as part of their physical education program in the daytime. Once a week, the kids come in every Friday. They come in, they did judo class with me, or wrestling, right? This semester, we're doing wrestling. Last semester, we did judo. But uh, and I also have a community club that meets twice a week. And and those people who are there, we have about 40 registered in the program because I have a small, about a 20 by 30 mat. We've overspilled. We have 2 rooms with 20 by 30 mats in them. So we actually have to walk across the hall, which is kind of good. But um, hardly any of them compete. Some of them do because they like to go to the scrimmages and try to test themselves as Shiai, to test their skills. But most of them, right now, I've got a 50-year-old gentleman who's a former power lifter, great shape. He's in fabulous shape, and he is an excellent student. He's been with me 2 years now, and his technical skill rivals brown belts, but he's not ready for his brown belt yet because I still have to teach him more judo. But it's entirely possible that someone could practice judo and enjoy judo, and just do judo and not have to be, a tough guy competitor. You know, I advertise here locally. I don't want tough guys. I just want people to learn judo. And a great friend of mine, a mentor of mine in my work in public recreation. We used to work in the inner city, had kind of a rough area we worked in. And he told me once, he said, there's no such thing as tough guys, just varying degrees of stupidity. And when you look at it that way, it was absolutely true, because there were a lot of really tough guys who came in with chips on their shoulder, and they ended up in prison or being stupid or killed or something else. And that's not what judo is about. Kano developed judo for everyone as a method of physical education. And that's what AAU judo is really about. It is for everyone as a method of physical education. And certainly when John Saylor and I started the JBBA back close to, I guess, about 20 years ago now, pushing that, I guess, we wanted to have an outlet for people who had that attitude. And through the years, it's with the help of Scott and James, certainly, on getting things organized within the JBBA. We've done that. It's a good, that organization is now primarily a judo education organization. We offer online coaching things. It's another way for judo coaches to improve what they do, so they can be better coaches to their students. That's what we do in the JBBA. But it all stems from the AAU. We couldn't do it without the AAU. That's the insurance. That's the background checks. That's our infrastructure. So, when James was talking about, it's not just for the competitors. One of the biggest problems of judo growing in the United States is that the instructors don't, they won't have time for a kid who can't be a champion. They don't. I've talked to too many instructors. Like I said before, they just don't want to waste their time with someone who won't win them medals for their club, or make him look good, or help him get a higher dan grade because he has all these champions in his club. So that's a very selfish attitude for a judo instructor to have. And I think we've surrounded ourselves in our AAU program with people who aren't like that. They genuinely want to help kids or adults become better at judo. Judo is a tool. Judo is a vehicle. That's what it was meant to be by Jigoro Kano. He founded it that way. It's a vehicle to help you be a better human being. And through hard work, and certainly the lessons you learn on the mat, you will be a better human being. It certainly helped me, and I've talked to James and Scott about this too extensively. Their backgrounds, I grew up. I was a poor kid in Kansas City. My parents sacrificed a lot for me to get signed up in a judo class. And when I was 12 years old, I was a really good baseball player. I was a big, tall kid. I had a good batting average, and so I had a very good competitive baseball player. And I mean, probably the first week in judo, it was like meeting the perfect woman in my life. So and I quit baseball the next season, and my dad said, broke his heart. He said, "Why are you quitting baseball? You might be in the pros or whatever." Yeah, right. But anyway, I said, "Dad, I love judo. I just want to do judo. I want to go judo every night of the week because they had practice every night of the week. And he was upset. I said, well, Dad, you signed me up. He said, you're right. Okay. And he was a good father. He kept taking me to judo, you know. And when I was able to drive, I drove to judo on my own. I used to take a bus because it was about a half-hour drive from my house. I would take a bus downtown to Kansas City where I had our dojo, and I trained there. And I was a judo fanatic. And it turned my life around because, um, you know, I was a stupid kid just like anybody else. And it was the vehicle that helped me graduate high school because there were a lot of back in the 70s there were a lot of goofy people and I knew them, and judo kept me away from them pretty much. It was the thing that it was the tool that got me interested to go to college, get a college degree, and get a job in Parks and Recreation so I could teach other people judo. And and there are a lot of other people just like that. You know, I know it's how it's helped James as a person and Scott as a person. I've talked with them about that. And we all have our stories. And so if I were to deny a kid that because he's not good enough to be a national champion, I'm a real selfish guy to even think that way. You know, I want to think about what's best for my student. And it's not sounding naive or corny or anything else. If somebody thinks it is naive or corny, I don't care what they think, because that's what judo's about, and that's what Kano invented judo to be: a physical education, self improvement, character building, and also a way of testing yourself. And if you have to use it in a self defense situation, it works. If you want to compete, it's a great dynamic sport. It's a great sport. I mean, I think it's one of the most interesting sports ever invented. And technically, you know, I don't know if I compare it to gymnastics in a way because gymnastics is such a technical sport, so difficult for the human body to do. But it's even harder than gymnastics because not only do I have to contort my body in all kinds of weird ways, I have to make an opponent contort his body in all kinds of weird ways. And I have to be really good at that to be good at judo. So that's what that's how difficult it is technically. So it takes a lifetime to learn. And if we think we're just going to produce champions just quick like that, you know, we're in it for the wrong reason, we coaches, you know, and it's a lifetime pursuit. And I've seen how it helps so many people in so many different ways. And so when I talk to instructors and say that's their only interest is competition, I try to be pleasant to them. I try to be nice to them. Say, think about this. Think about how you're shortchanging them, how you're not giving them a chance to be a well-rounded human being. You can be that. You will be that guy. And sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But you know so I just wanted to add what James was saying because it is for everyone. If you run a program, and guys there with Scott, I know his goals, what he wants to do. He wants to run a well-rounded program to teach judo as physical education. He wants to do that, and our AAU coaches, I think every one of us who are involved in the AAU, we have that same opinion. We really do, and it's not naive to say that or corny to say that. It's just plain true. And if other people don't, that's their business. All we can do is offer a great infrastructure for people, for coaches to do what they do best, which is teach good judo. But again, the main problem why judo is not growing in the United States, I believe, is because of people that they sign up at a dojo, and immediately if they don't show promise, then they're shown out the door. Real quick example of that, I did a seminar for a guy several years back, and I remember he was telling me that I think he had 7 new adults sign up, you know, one month or something. And I said, that's great, you know. And I said, how are they doing? He said, oh, they all quit. I said, why? He said, they couldn't take it. They weren't tough enough. And so I liked the guy, and I said, why don't we have a talk about this? Let's discuss. Why are you saying weren't they tough enough? You know, well, they just couldn't take the training. Well, what kind of training did you offer them? Well, what he did, like, there was one guy described in his 40s. He put him in there with one of the kids who was competing in the junior nationals, who was about an 18-year-old kid. And the kid just knocked the snot out of him. Well, he quit. Well, yeah, I would too. You know, I got to get up and go to work tomorrow morning. That kid, mom and dad can feed him breakfast, but I got to put breakfast on the table for my kids. So I talked to him about that. I said, well, you're going to do what you're going to do, but if you want my advice, I'll tell it to you. And he asked, and I gave it to him. And I checked back with him about a year later, and he didn't take my advice. He still had the same, and he probably has about 10 or 12 people at the most training with him at any given time. But they're all tough guys. Ask him, he'll tell you. And that's the sad thing. So that's what we see in American judo. We see too much of that. We don't see enough of where people can just do judo. A total opposite of that. If you look at France, the country of France, they rival Japan for being the number one. In fact, they beat the Japanese at the last Olympic Games in the team competition, in in the Olympics. But when you go to France, I've been to France several times, and I went to they took me to a small dojo, as they call it, in the northern part of the country in Lille, L-I-L-L-E, Lille, the city of Lille. And they only had 250 members in their dojo. It was a small dojo to them. Had two big, beautiful mats. And I don't know, I would say France probably has 750,000 people doing judo, where they have a population of about 40 million. That's a huge chunk. That's almost 1% of the population. And from what the French say, they have more people actually doing judo than the Japanese do. So that's pretty impressive. Why don't we copy what the French are doing? Because they're making sure that, they're probably maybe 10% of their people compete, maybe 20%. Well, the other 80% are doing judo too, and they're welcome on the mat. That's what we should do. That's what AAU is about. I think if we look at something as a model, that's what we're trying to do with AAU Judo. But we're fighting a battle in that, and James certainly knows. He's been in the game a long time. Scott has too now. Scott's been 10, 12 years with me. It's
Yes,
a while. And we talk to these guys, and they always tell us how wrong we are. We're just letting everybody do judo. And okay, well, opinion's an opinion, so there you go. But I think what James was saying is absolutely 100% correct. Judo is for everyone, and that's what we do at AAU Judo. And when we have coaching our programs, one thing nice about AAU is that when you join as a adult, so-called non-competitive member, they do a background check on you. So that's good. That's really important, I think. You also get an opportunity to go through what's called Positive Coaching Alliance. It's a great program. It's an online coaching program. It's a basic start, but they also have other programs if you want to hook up with them. It's a great program. I'm involved with them, and I really learned a lot about coaching from them. Great stuff. But it's free. For anybody who wants to take that course, you can take it. It's a great it's a generic course on coaching, and absolutely free. And it's, I think, as good as anything any of the governing bodies are putting out for their specific sports. And I've worked with USA Wrestling on some of their stuff and studied what they do. That's outstanding, by the way. But I've also looked at all the judo organizations we have in the United States, and basically, I'm not going to go too political, but I will say that I'm less than pleased with how they develop their coaches. Let's put it that way, because believe it or not, I'm so old that I was actually the very first coaching coordinator, the first chairman for coaching development in USA Judo. It was called USJI in 1985. I was a young coach. My mentor, Bruce Toops, was the head of director of development. And he said, you got a little bit of common sense, Stephen. You got a good background in physical education, kinesiology, and sociology, and all this other stuff. I want you to put together a coach program. And we did. We put together a good basic coach program, and it was free to our coaches. We didn't charge anybody any money. And you didn't need it to get on the floor to coach your students or athletes at a tournament. It was just part of the program. And it worked quite well. And again, what James is saying, when I was finally fired from my position in USJI, which later on, I'm not a very good politician. I think I'm a pretty good coach, but I'm a really bad politician. But anyway, like he said, the new guy that came in and the new regime that came in, they completely redid it, and they did it. Now they're making good money at it, so on and so forth. That's good for them. But the original intent was to educate coaches. It was coach education. And And that's one thing I think that we're trying to do. And that's why what we have as an auxiliary with our JBBA, our Judo Black Belt Association, it is a judo education organization. We offer online courses, for a one-time fee of $50. I'm not trying to sell it. You have to join, but for a one-time fee, we're not in it for the money. You can log on to our JBBA members Facebook group. I make sure we put a new video on there, a different video on there every Monday morning. It's coach education video of some type, technique stuff, how to teach, blah, blah, blah. We put a lot of stuff on there. We try to educate people in judo. And so that's an auxiliary organization to what we're doing in AAU. Again, as I said before, AAU is the basis of everything we're doing. So that's what we've got going. And coaching is a vital concern. Fortunately, I know James and Scott have really worked with me on that, our coach education programs, and that we have it. I'm astounded at how poor some people teach judo, frankly. And I'm not saying that like I know all the answers, or James or Scott has all the answers. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that how they may be good judo men, but how they teach it, how they package it and sell it, or whatever you want to say to their students, they don't do it very well. And there's no progression of skill or any of that other stuff. And that's one thing I think in our program that we do, we try to have our coaches learn how to teach judo better. Because like James was saying, we want to coach instructors because they're the people that are going to go out and they're going to teach the next generation. And I'm not going to be around forever. James isn't either, and none of you other guys are either. Best we can do is, like Jigoro Kano himself said, one of the best gifts we can give people is education. Education is vital, and so they can carry on the knowledge of what we have, and hopefully improve on it and add to it. So that's what judo's about, and I think that's the purpose of this conference here is we're talking about how we can use judo to educate people better, and how it's not just a sport. It's a great sport. I mean, I'm coming out with another book in June. Here's my unashamed plug, my shameless plug but it's about competitive judo. I've written books, others, and after that, I've got another one coming out. It's a general book on judo skills, and I'm still, in fact, it's just before I logged on here, I was working on that. So, there are resources out there, and we can use them. And but there should be room for everybody. That's what I'm saying.
We have about 10 or 15 minutes left. Can you run real quick the AAU rules?
Oh yeah, sure.
We have two sets. There's traditional and freestyle. Kind of
right.
Just break it down real quick for us.
Well, the nice thing about AAU Judo is you don't have to have one set of rules. Okay, so about forget when it was, 2008. I started the ball rolling on the freestyle judo rules. James got on right away. We worked them pretty good, and it's a development set of judo rules. It's easy. I got the idea that real quick. I got that idea from USA Tennis, U.S. Tennis Association, because in Parks and Recreation, we used to offer summer tennis leagues for kids, and the U.S. Tennis Association sponsored it, so we had a great program. But they had a real simplified scoring system so the kids could understand it and still learn the skills of tennis. And that's how I got the idea to do the freestyle judo rules. They're basically numerical rules. We still have Ippon and all that, but it's a development set of rules. So that's good. That's one thing we do. We also have a more traditional set of rules of that we like Norm Miller, when he has his tournament in August, the AAU tournament he has in Milwaukee, he will use the Ippon, Wazari, and I think he still includes the Yuko rules for judo, and so it's a more traditional set of rules. But we do have people who are in AAU, and they do have licensed or sanctioned tournaments where they use the IJF rules because they like them, and that's what's big in their area. They use them, so that's okay too, as long as it's a good, legitimate set of rules where there's safety involved, and that we want to make sure no one's hurt. We want to make sure everyone's matched evenly. But the basic AAU judo rules that Norm will use in August are pretty much like you would find in any judo tournament, except you do have to throw them free pawn, where no softy pawns. I attended an IJF tournament recently here in the Midwest, and I saw a referee give a wazari for a kid getting thrown flat on his butt, on his rear end. Just that was it. And James is like nodding and said, "Oh my God, really?" Yeah. And they called wazari for that. And I didn't say anything with my kid. And I asked afterwards, I asked somebody else, I said, "Is that normal?" "Oh yeah, that's what we do these days." So, oh my God. So, norm still, you got to throw them free pawn, mainly on the back with control and force, and or back or side. Wazari is almost any pawn. The yuko is almost a wazari. Those are good rules, and I think he has a 25-second time for the osaikomi, the pins, and then he has chokes and arm locks, of course, for the teens and older. In AA, with the freestyle rules, we have ippon, but then we have the, like for what would be a wazari, it's 4 points. What would be a yuko, it's 2 points. What would be a koka, the old rules of koka, which is kind of a knockdown on the side, even the buttocks, it's 1 point. So you can score, and on the ground, you get points for, passing guard or rolling somebody on their back or something. You get points for that. The idea is to reward good behavior, good skillful behavior. That's how we develop the freestyle judo rules, and that's what they're about, development. We don't. If somebody doesn't want to use them, I don't care. But they're out there and they're good. James has had a number of really good tournaments down in Denham Springs. I mean, if you want to you want to know how to put on a good judo tournament, James Wall's the guy. But we had some really good turnout. People like those rules when we ask them, because there were a number of USA judo referees there, and they didn't want people to know they were there, but they talked to us anyway. And I say, "What do you think of the tournament?" And they say, "We love these rules. They're great for development. Which you're on the right track. It'll never go because if they won't allow it." I said, "I know, but we're trying." He said, "Well, good for you." A number of them said that, and that's good. But that's what we have. So again, AAU judo is about development. So we want to have rules that reflect that attitude of developing people. If the freestyle rules help, then use them. If the regular rules of the AAU rule, then use those. If you want to use IJF rules, use those. As long as it's a good, valid set of rules where safety is the main concern and fairness, of course, of the the whole point of the tournament. So that's what AAU rules are about, and we do that on purpose. We have different sets of rules because different people want different things out of judo, and if you're in business, we're not in business really to make money, but if you're in business and you want to attract people to your business, you offer them something that is attractive. And if it's attractive, different sets of rules, then use them. Like last December, we had a little scrimmage, use the freestyle set of rules. I think this Saturday, we're going to use the IJF rules because a lot of the kids are going to, they've joined USA Judo, they're going to go to the junior nationals. Okay, we want to prep them for that. So the rules, use them to benefit your students, and that's what they're about. So that's how we look at judo rules. They're not like, it's not like the 10 Commandments etched in stone. It's use them to your advantage for your students, and that's what they're all about. So that's our attitude about that. That's our philosophy of judo rules for competition. Is that what you're looking for, Scott? Is that a little bit? Okay.
I appreciate that. And we have a couple of minutes left. So does anybody have any questions for Steve or for James?
By the way, I know you guys out in Phoenix. Look at that Quick Trip. You got them, don't you? I know you're a civilized part of the world. You've got Quick Trip.
Yeah, Quick Trips for sure.
We have that here in Kansas City too, by the way. So, any questions? Whatever you got. I mean,
All right.
I may be ugly, but I'm trying not to be scary. Okay, so.
Well, if there's no questions, we might go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. But thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much, James. Thank you, everyone, for taking your time to do this. I think this is a really remarkable tool for us all to get together, and being that we're all scattered across the country, I'd like to think that maybe we could do this again.
I'm all for it. Yeah, Chris you're the brains behind this. You got this together. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris is my website guy and my IT guy, and he's done this all. He's really my website, everything. It's him. He's really the brains.
Well, I would certainly be up if Chris is willing to do the heavy work, and I know James is. I know you're a tech guy too. I'm totally dumb on this stuff. You know, I'm a big dumb jock, so I'll just live with that. But if you guys could set something up, if we could have a coaches conference or more what we're doing here, let's do it, because the more people can talk and educate each other about judo and different points of view, I think all the better. You know, and I won't have to prattle on while some other people who maybe have some more sense than me. So we can listen to them too.
I think it's a great idea.
And Scott, I just want to say something in closing real quick before we hop off. I know you've got a good group there. So when I say if you're young in judo, I don't mean your chronological age. I'm talking about your length of time involved in judo. If you're young in judo and you're taking the time to take part in something like this, and you're going to come to the seminar that I'll be there to do next week, and the scrimmage and things like that, that's great. That's the perfect thing that you should be doing. Try to absorb as much knowledge as you can. And Steve didn't do it, and I didn't do it too badly either. We tried not to make this about putting down on the other organizations. That's not what it's about. That's not at all what it's about. And so I don't want you guys young in judo to develop any preconceived notions or any bad negative thoughts or feelings or anything like that. That's not the point of it. You guys are taking important steps to put yourself out there and try to learn more and try to improve. We need instructors. We need people that are willing to teach judo, to share it, and we need people doing it for the right reasons. And for me personally, I can tell you, other than being a father and raising a child myself, the next most rewarding thing in my entire life, my 50 years on this planet, has been working with people, kids, teenagers, adults, and seeing what positive changes judo could make in their lives. And I don't think it has to be just judo. There are other things that can do that. It just so happens, like Steve said, judo is the tool that we're using to try to put a little bit of good back into the world. And I think it's a powerful tool when it's used the right way.
Right.
So approach your judo path and journey with an open mind. There are so many people you're going to meet in judo, and I've been involved in a lot of different things over the years. I scuba dive. I'm a competitive shooter. I do a lot of tactical training, precision shooting, lots of different things like that. And every sport I've been involved in, it's always the same. You encounter a lot of people who really come across as very superior acting. They know it all. Their way is the only way to do it. Their equipment is the only equipment to use. If you're not doing it like they're doing it, then you're doing it wrong. You're going to encounter that in your judo journey as well. Don't let that influence you and turn you off. Don't be that way. Learn from whoever you can learn from. Try to become the best instructor you can become. Figure out what you're doing it for. Why am I doing this? Why am I giving up my time on a Monday night or whatever that I could be, watching a movie or anything else, but I'm here teaching kids judo. You obviously like it. There's obviously something about it you enjoy. So focus on that and don't let any of the negative things bring you down about judo. And it's harder for people like me. I've been in it for a while, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've had some bad experiences over the years. I'm a little cynical. I'm a little bit jaded. I get a little angry at times because I've been, and Steve can tell you horror stories. I can tell you horror stories. I'm sure the other guys here that are, our age or older can tell you stories as well. But you can't let those things affect what it is you're trying to do. You guys are doing a great thing. I'm really proud that you're doing it. I'm proud that Scott's taking steps to try to, produce instructors there and get people involved. I would say that for you guys that are young in judo, if you don't already have it, Steve has a lot of great books. There's a really good book that Kano wrote, and a lot of people don't ever think about or read. It's called Mind Over Muscle.
Yeah, good book.
go out and just read Combo's books on judo technique, and they're amazing. Get those. That's like your Bible, right? But for $16 on Amazon, you can get a copy of Mind Over Muscle. It was life-changing for me as far as a judo coach. It really helped me a lot, opened my eyes to a lot of things, because in that book, he talks a lot about the philosophy and the reason he's doing judo and the reason he created judo and the things that he wanted to create out. It wasn't about gold medals. It wasn't about fighters. It was about helping people become better people, and therefore, hopefully, better communities and better world is what he wanted to do. And that's profound, right? And so I think if you take that into account, and if you approach your judo journey with that in mind, that, hey, I'm here because I want to learn and get better and be able to protect myself and my family better, that's all great. Second after that, what can I do to make the world better? How can I help? I'm not going to cure cancer, not going to walk on Mars, but maybe there's this kid here who's at risk of juvenile diabetes, and he can't play football, and he can't play basketball, and he can't run track, can't play any of the school sports because he can't make the team. They cut him, right? Or he rides the bench all season. Well, he can play judo. We got a spot for him, you know?
Right.
Here's another kid who's being picked on, you know, because he has a speech impediment or whatever, you know, and he's getting bullied a lot at school, and he can't take part in any of the activity at school. Well, we got a place for him in judo. And this, it just goes on and on and on. There's so many things like that I've seen over the years of doing this, that for a guy like me, that's the best I'm ever going to do. That's the best I'm ever going to put into this world, right? So I would just say that, you know, continue to try to grow as an instructor, and enjoy that journey, and do it for the right reasons. And it'll be, if you do that, you may never become a super high level black belt. You may never win national titles, but you will incredible satisfaction out of what you did. You will be able to look back at it and say, man, I did something that mattered, did something that counted. So that's it.
Well said. Well said. I mean, I agree 100%. So.
Guys, one thing I mentioned in the beginning that we were recording this. If anyone wants a copy of the recording, just let Scott know, and we can arrange to get you a copy of the recording. But we do need to wrap it up. Google limits us to an hour, and we've already pushed it past. The thing to just cut off, and no one can say goodbye, so we need to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks
for seeing everybody.
Big
Take care.
We'll do this again.
You bet.
All right.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.